if you would have asked me what my rules were at the time when you and I met, I would have told you the one that I'm focused on the most is not being like my father, right? So when you started getting into prohibitive thinking and affirmative thinking and things, again, just an entirely new way to look at everything that was going on in my head and what I was processing through. Because all I knew is what I didn't want to be. I wasn't even thinking about what makes me happy, what fulfills me, what brings me joy and happiness and things. It was just I just knew what I didn't want to be, which is a fucking pickle.
It is the ultimate pickle, right? And it's a perfect transition because the nature of our thinking is the thing that produces and writes the rules in the first place. So if prohibitive thinking is driving the rules that we're adhering to or that we're writing, it's like fruit from the poisonous tree. That fear persists and the suffering persists. So we should talk about that thinking tool because it's essential to our framework. So the rule framework, we'll get to all the details and the nuts and bolts of that, but there's some things that are antecedent to that occur before that are so important, and you just nailed one. So very early on, before we're even consciously aware, we have a choice between prohibitive thinking and affirmative thinking. Prohibitive thinking begins with the internal dialogue, I don't want to, I'm afraid of, like you were talking about. I don't want to be my dad. Whereas affirmative thinking begins with an internal dialogue that says, I aspire to, or I want to. And it's very important for you guys listening to this, new learners here. We are not talking about the power of positive thinking at all. We're talking about selecting an area of focus that exists in reality and that is solution focused. There's a huge difference between those two. And I'll explain why. A person who says, I don't want to be my father. Do you remember what I said to you when you said that?
You're like, well, how the hell do you know if you've made it?
Right.
When is that ever accomplished?
Right. So a person says, I don't want to become my father. I say, okay, how do you know when you're ever successful at not becoming something? And the person thinks about it for a while, like you did, and you realize, oh my gosh, I never know. You could go your whole life trying not to be something and never know if you were successful in accomplishing that. So that's an anti-goal. It's a goal without end. And it actually makes us exit reality because we think that we can accomplish something or measure something that can't be done. It's an anti-goal. It's a goal without end. Whereas on the affirmative side, if we say, I aspire to be something else, that's doable. That's measurable. So if a person doesn't want to be their mother or father, let's say because their father or mother was a doormat, okay, we acknowledge why the prohibitive thought is there, right? But then we take the very important second step and intentionally go to the affirmative side and say, I aspire to be more assertive. Now, notice the difference cognitively, thinking, between I don't want to be my father and I aspire to be more assertive. They could not be more different. And the reason why that matters is because where the mind goes, the ass follows, meaning our thinking influences our behavior, which in turn affects how we feel. But if you aspire to be more assertive, well, that's doable, that's measurable, and that's actually solution oriented. It's in reality. The other example we use about prohibitive affirmative thinking is, think about a hypothetical person, we'll call him John, the problem drinker, right? John says, I don't want to drink today. I'm afraid of drinking, so I'm not going to drink today. And everybody around him says, oh, good for you, John. You're doing the right things and saying the right things. And we're the only two people in the room who are going like this. Because you and I both know when John says, I don't want to think about drinking today, what's he thinking about?
Drinking the whole time.
Drinking. So his entire enterprise, its solution is to focus on the problem.
Yep.
Whereas if John says, today I want to drink lemonade, Well, now we've got something that's doable, that's measurable. And notice, what does drinking lemonade have to do with drinking alcohol? Nothing. That tells us that the solution doesn't even have to have anything to do with the problem. That's important. So affirmative thinking is crucial, because if we start making proposals about rules, or if we're writing rules or we're adhering to rules that originate from prohibitive thinking, we're screwed right from the very beginning. Kind of like you were talking about with your dad and with your experiences in religion.